Hello and welcome. My name is Jevgenij Rusakov and you're watching TVP World, interview from Vilnius. Tensions around Iran have rapidly escalated, raising questions not only about the future of the Middle East, but also about the political consequences in the United States and the stability of transatlantic relations. Rising oil prices, divisions amongst Western allies and the approaching US midterm elections add new layers to an already complex situation. To discuss how the conflict with Iran is perceived in the United States and what scenarios may lie ahead, we speak with American studies expert Alexandra Filippenko. Alexandra, thank you for joining us today. Glad to see you in our studio.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
The situation is heated, I would say.
At least heated, because we're in after 14 days of war.
Exactly. So, to begin with, what is the reaction to this conflict in the United States?
Well, first of all, it's very important to say that poll numbers for the administration are really bad. The situation is dire. Only about 30% of Americans support Epic Fury, the operation in the Middle East, and we hear more and more from different sides of the political spectrum. Not only the Democrats. Of course, the Democrats are against it. Of course, the politicians in Congress are against it. But also, we're hearing voices from the Republican Party and from the right wing, far right wing of the Republican Party. People like Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and others.
The ones that support Trump, in fact.
Supported Trump, hardcore Trump supporters. And poor Tucker Carlson, who had to listen to Vladimir Putin for a long time in his Kremlin history. But that Tucker Carlson, that at some point people thought that he might be the vice president of the United States, that Tucker Carlson is extremely against the war in Iran. And also many of the right-wing Trump supporters, including, some say, also even the Vice President J.D. Vance, even the current President J.D. Vance. So we're hearing people being against that operation, not only from the Democratic side, but also from the Republican side.
What's the reaction of ordinary U.S. citizens to rising oil prices?
This is the main thing, actually, because right before the invasion, right before the operation Epic Fury, we've heard President Trump saying that the median price of gas is less than $3 per gallon. $3 per gallon and less, or even way less. And right now, the median price in the United States is about $3.50. So we see each and every American sees the rising of oil prices, of not only oil, gas prices. And of course, if the gas prices rise, we understand that everything is more expensive because you have to bring the products into the store. So the Americans are not happy, and they know not only the gas prices rise, they see 13 Americans killed in action. We know that about 150 Americans were wounded, and we know that the war costs $1 billion a day.
That's enormous. That's enormous. Okay, so according to Wall Street Journal, Donald Trump was aware of the risk of Iran potentially blocking the Strait of Hormuz, but still chose to proceed with those military actions. So what does this tell us about the decision-making process in the U.S. administration?
I'm afraid that we will know the truth only about like 50. Let's meet here in 50 years and discuss. Hopefully, yes, because I think that's when the State Department and the CIA and everyone will open their archives and we will know the reality. How ready was the administration? How tactical was the plan? How were they sure? Were they sure of the plan? Were they not sure? But right now, it seems that we're seeing chaos. It seems that the administration thought that the regime would fall in a few days, or maybe maximum in a week, but regime is still standing. We see that regime is still there. Even the people are coming out in the cities in support of the Iranian regime. No, nothing has changed inside Iran. And right now we are seeing even the moderate Iranians who could have supported a different regime, they are now saying, please leave us alone and stop this operation, because these are our schools, these are our neighborhoods. And of course, this is very very difficult for the Americans even to think about having a real invasion, let's say boots on the ground. That's out of the question for the American side.
The same Wall Street Journal recently reported that Trump's advisors are urging him to draw up a plan to end the conflict with Iran, fearing negative political repercussions, particularly ahead of the midterm elections that will take place in November. So how realistic do you think such a scenario could be?
Well, I think for President Trump, it's important not only to end the war before the midterm elections, but also before July 4th. Victorious, glorious Donald Trump cannot have the 250th birthday of America in the war, in the situation of a war, or a operation, as he calls it, the Epic Fury operation. It's July 4th. It's the main celebration of America, and of course the Independence Day in the United States. So it's important for him to end it before July 4th. For sure, Americans will remember going to the ballot if they would be celebrating it July 4th during a wartime. But also, I think it's important for President Trump to end this before meeting Xi Jinping in just 2 weeks' time. So this is why I think we're hearing that maybe it might even be postponed.
Since you've mentioned China's leader, so what's your take on overall on this situation from China's perspective?
China has been buying more oil than previously, just in the past few months. So probably China expected something like that. So right as of now, as of today, but we're speaking today, it's not a tragedy for Chinese economy, but in about 2 to 3 weeks, this will also be a problem for the Chinese, even though Chinese tankers are allowed through the Strait of Hormuz by the Iranians. But we're not sure that they are still getting enough oil. So oil prices might rise. China might start buying more from Russia also. This would engage more, it will give more money to the Russian military machine to attack Ukraine, to buy more weapons and to produce more weapons. So it's bad from that perspective too. And for China, as of now, it's not that harsh on China, but it's we're talking 2 weeks in. It's harsh on us right here. For China, it's not that tragic, but in about 2 weeks, China will start feeling it too.
Let's move to Europe. So several European countries have refused to support the United States and Israel in their confrontation with Iran. So what consequences could this have for transatlantic relations?
On the one hand, I don't think we will see short-term consequences. Although President Trump was quite harsh on Keir Starmer, he was quite harsh.
Not only on him, Spain as well. Italy has also set its position towards the conflict. So
they will not get involved, as Giorgia Meloni said. So yes, for Trump, this is a test. This is a test for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. This is a test for NATO. So long-term, we might see long-term consequences. We might see even less money from the United States coming to NATO. We might see even less engagement from the United States and NATO. We might see this long-term. And President Trump also, he put it in a very interesting way. He said that the United States are helping with Ukraine. And he put that on a scale. On the one side, the United States selling weapons to European countries to be transferred to Ukraine. And on the other hand, helping with opening up the Strait of Hormuz by the Europeans. But these are different things, of course. One thing is military engagement. And I mean sending ships to open up the Strait of Hormuz.
Europe doesn't want to get involved.
Europe does, absolutely. Nobody wants to get involved. They don't see it being their war. And of course, Europe being much closer to Iran and also having way more people, immigrants from Iran, and we don't know.
Well, Europe will definitely feel all the consequences if it gets involved. It already feels all those consequences. The conflict itself has drawn many Gulf states into the crisis, and including several close US partners. So under what circumstances might these regional actors be able to influence Washington's decision or position to push for de-escalation?
It feels like President Trump, from the very beginning, when they saw that the war is not ending soon, they had this 4 weeks time frame, more or less 4 to 6 weeks time frame that they decided upon. So for President Trump, as of now, I don't think that anyone can really influence him, even his closest allies in the Gulf, even all those nations that invest heavily, not only in the United States, but also in the Trump organization and into the companies close to President Trump and to his heart and to his children. So for President Trump, I think it's important to push as far as possible in those 4 weeks' time. Not more. I suppose that he will try to really end it before the meeting with Xi Jinping, and also in just 4 weeks, because otherwise this will be too long. And what President Trump is telling everyone: short-term pain, long-term gain. This is what he's telling to his partners in the Middle East and in the Persian Gulf. Short-term pain, yes, there are drones flying into the buildings, there are attacks on those countries, but long-term you will get not maybe an ally, but a weak Iran, the Iran that will not be an opponent to your countries, to all the countries in the Gulf.
That's not 100%.
Absolutely. That's the problem. President Trump is not a fortune teller. He cannot say what is actually going to happen. But it also seems that somehow, or at least Bloomberg and Washington Post reported that Saudi Arabia played a part in that, and Saudi Arabian Crown Prince somehow convinced President Trump that it's time to attack right now. So it would be interesting to see and to watch what would Saudi Arabia do actually if it drags for more than 4 weeks.
Do you think this conflict with Iran could become personal Trump's Waterloo, political Waterloo?
The tragedy is yes, I believe so. This is win or lose situation. There is no third way for President Trump, because if the regime falls, this will be a great win for President Trump and for his administration and for the Republicans. If the regime doesn't change, this will mean big problems for the Trump administration. He will, not only him, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, and he will drag everyone with him, apart from J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance.
Why are you mentioning Trump and apart from J.D. Vance? What's the problem here?
Let's see how he's absent. Even those photographs, the official photographs of the White House of the beginning of the Operation Epic Fury, whom we see at the table: Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Dan Kane, and some generals, but not J.D. Vance. It happened in Mar-a-Lago. The operation was started when Trump was at Mar-a-Lago, while J.D. Vance was in the White House. He was at the White House on the phone at that moment. He's not present. He's not there. So J.D. Vance seems to be part of the administration that is against the war and against the continuation.
Let's put it that way. If I'm not mistaken, J.D. Vance used to serve in the U.S. Army, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he knows what war is in reality.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. Not only that, J.D. Vance served in Iraq. J.D. Vance is an army man. He knows what it is. And also, J.D. Vance is part of the Republican Party that built itself on contradiction to the Iraq war, saying that the Iraq war was a total disaster and nothing worse than that. And now being afraid that this might drag as long as the Iraq war, or having boots on the ground as in the Iraq war. And this is why we see cracks, it seems, or there are reports of cracks in the Trump administration. And that is why that meeting in the White House between President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance to show unity.
Looking ahead, what scenarios do you consider most likely for the development of this conflict?
Well, I wish we knew, but to me personally, right now, speaking from today, it seems that President Trump can declare victory at any moment, but he would probably try to push to the limit in those 4 weeks. I don't think that short-term pain will drag up to 2 months or more. So it seems that President Trump needs to end this in 2, maybe maximum 4 weeks from now.
Okay, we'll see what the next 4 weeks will bring us. Alexandra, thank you for joining us today, and I really hope to see you once again in our studio with more. We've got more to come.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And I would like to remind our viewers that our guest for today was American studies expert Alexandra Filippenko. You're watching TVP World. Stay with us.